the Natural Healing Radio Hour is a free knowledge base about healing, right? I've been wanting to do it. This is an idea that I had a year and a half ago, and in some ways I said, it's been building my whole life. It's this idea of just giving away everything for free. And now I'm like, oh, this is just one piece of the puzzle of what we're calling like the new PBS, the new public broadcasting service that's really of, by, and for the people. And it's
healing at all levels.
Healing at all levels. Exactly. It's healing the earth. It's healing our bodies. It's healing, healing, returning, which means returning to wholeness, and truly ultimately positive. Like I know, viscerally know that life is conspiring to bring us to fulfillment. And so that's natural law. And I know that in my life, and I know that in working with clients for, almost 30 years, this is how life works for humans and everything else. And so I know that this is an inevitability. It's like, well, everything is moving toward freedom and fulfillment. And then it was like, oh my gosh, this is just one show among others. And then, of course, we're going to need a network. We're going to need a platform other than Substack. It's already been bought up by a billionaire. And we're going to need a truly free internet, which is really what we're talking about. And Jeremy has a lot of knowledge about how the internet started, why we went wrong, like why the code doesn't map on natural law. And then the discussion today is how can it? How can we build an algorithm? How can we build systems that are truly free, both monetarily and conceptually, where we're not, like we were talking about yesterday with Vasvi, we're flooded with all this programming, but underneath it, we're actually simple creatures. And we can just talk directly about what we want or what we don't. And communication can be simple when we're coming from the body and from life speaking. And then what does a virtual village look like that's built on that, on the simplicity versus the complexity now where everything is built to siphon our energy and our attention toward the billionaires, basically, toward our overlords, toward Sauron.
Desperate creatures trying to, right this terribly wicked world and redeem us from ourselves.
Yes.
So, I mean, which, of course, they've got to dish out a lot of abuse to make that happen. But there's, like I was saying, that, framing it for what we do want.
Yep.
And really getting a sense that joy is like the king of emotions that can be a guide to, to attracting, and then like throwing a party for everyone. So even the big baddies, I think are
invited.
Welcome.
Yes,
it's like, and of course they're suffering.
Yeah, of course they're suffering.
In the meantime,
it's more than anyone in some senses. I love this. So this is the throwing a party for everyone.
Yeah,
is the model that we're looking for.
So
give us
so when we're talking, like, I'm going to give you a kind of a brief bio.
Hold on one second. It says, is it just me? Video only focused on space between Megan and Jeremy.
Yeah, we don't look blurry to ourselves.
No, we look.
But if we can come across any clearer, thank you for telling us how we can support you.
Let us know if it's just Randolph or someone else, or if you guys can see us clearly.
Oh, well, when you put the finger up, it does kind of. Doesn't seem to focus.
No. But I wonder if it's just like a rendering issue or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, I hope you can be with it. Speak up again
if you can't see us at all.
Yeah.
Like if it's just literally in the space between, then I'll try vertical and we'll just kind of come closer together. Maybe being off camera is intentional. Oh, can you zoom out? See, it's modeled for. Oh, so we're gonna try this. Yeah. Okay.
It was cropping it.
Yeah. It was cropping it because it's portrait mode on phones. Okay. Yeah. How is this now? How's vertical? We're just gonna have to be closer. Can you see us now? We're just gonna get, How's it? Better? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
Oh gosh. So
it's very close.
I mean, I just I'm gonna be. Wow. I'm coming from like a conversation with my mom about the past that shaped me, and so so I grew up around here. I was actually living anonymizing things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us,
So
give us your background context.
with
Catch us up to how you got here and what you
yeah.
want to share.
Yeah. So I mean, looking back, I think I was more kind of tuned in and countercultural than I give myself credit for. But the what I'm going to provide now is sort of a sketch of how I came to be asking the questions that churned up the kind of ideas and like the inquiries that I've been through. And oh my gosh, I don't want to take too long. There was a short story I read online that talked about the future of technology, and that grabbed my. It was purporting to be, it's like scientifically valid and proofed out by like a book which I went on to read called Engines of Creation, which is about molecular nanotechnology. It was published in 1986, and looking back on it, um, the thesis was there's all this complicated stuff, very powerful, dangerous, and now your head's at bottom of screen. Yeah.
Now your head's at the bottom of the screen. Okay. I don't know why. Can you
we
see
don't
us?
know.
Like, because it looks good on our end, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're getting video from the device itself rather than just it coming around.
Get this thing to stop.
We're gonna address several problems right now, and I'm gonna load the Substack to see
what's the issue.
if I can get a sense of here. Oh, okay. Well, it was
okay for a minute.
Yeah, you look stunned. Okay, well.
Oh, I see. Now we're cutting me.
Interesting.
Oh no. Oh, it's okay now.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the horizontal, but if you're looking at it on your phone, then
yeah.
Just laid back.
Okay. We can see what you see now. It looks like we're in frame.
We get it.
We get it. Okay.
I mean,
all right. This is gonna be what
this is where the term suboptimal comes in handy. Like,
yes,
it's suboptimal, but so much of life could
good enough. Okay.
So
nanotechnology.
Yeah. It's so that was like the around the turn of the century. That was sort of the big niche, but there was a Wired magazine article by a guy named Bill Joy talking about this as a danger. He identified genetics, robotics, and nano, and so like AI was kind of the robotics thing. Anyway, these three were like exponential technologies, and so I mean, initially I was like, oh, like we're gonna live in an age of post scarcity. Isn't that good news? It's like, oh, like I have an inheritance or something that's going to be helpful. But then, then I guess I came around to kind of getting in touch with the world outside my bubble. What they didn't teach me in an American high school about, kind of like the realpolitik, the way the world works. There was specifically. Actually, I was living in Portland, Oregon, and got my first high-speed internet, and I was this anarchist radio archive. I was getting all sorts of Michael Parente, Noam Chomsky lectures, MP3s, and the really opened my eyes to kind of how the larger systems treat the value of human life, and so reconciling that with this apparently coming powerful technology was something that left me in a place of really like a lot of fear.
Yeah.
So a lot of like like I'm actually scared. I'm paranoid, and so it's a long like I had serious questions about like, well, like what the fuck am I gonna do to protect myself? Because the way looking back, I was like, oh yeah, this world is not going to work out, and that was real for me in a way that really necessitated kind of like finding and exploring what an alternative was. And so,
when was that?
I would say that would be really 2001, 2001, 2003. I have an essay I wrote in 2003 that I took to a anarchist conference where I was really confronting like our like was to quote Douglas Adams, coming down from the trees, was that a good idea? Like, we got the wristwatch, a digital wristwatches, neat idea, but like, is actually, and the question was for these primitive and green anarchists was like, is symbolic thought a mistake?
Got it. Yeah,
So,
yeah. Going back to the basics, like,
yeah,
where did we go wrong?
what can we trust?
Yeah.
And actually the what the resolution of that for myself, because I was reading Industrial Society and Its Consequences, a different TED. Anyway, I'm going to stay present here. And you will. This essay is out there, but the kind of conclusion of it was this a guy named Robert McChesney, and here's where I have a little computer assisted. Let's see if I can find. Okay, great. Well, that's the one quote I didn't put in here. But the
Jeremy Helm, by the way, HELM. You can look it up.
The link's in the description. So
exactly.
Actually, I mean, the quote was eerily similar to this notion of a new PBS. It was basically if progressive causes don't, like, whatever their first issue is, climate change, civil rights, whatever, unless their second issue is media, then
yes,
we won't have a space in which these things get like will lose, basically.
And every issue is tied to another issue. With the siloing of climate and human rights and war. This is it's one issue. It's one issue, which is the issue of the story of separation.
Yes,
real.
Yes, there's a. I mean, let's see. So I mean, it shows up here with. So here's.
So yeah.
This is. So in terms of, I love these guys. They're taking profound action in terms of civil disobedience to stop AI, which is an existential threat that's current. And so they have gotten themselves arrested for trespassing because they're showing up again and again, chaining themselves to the doors of OpenAI, essentially saying like, why aren't you taking even just this person seriously? Sam Altman, the CEO there, and so trying to put the brakes on this, and so I'm with that. I don't want AI, and we'll get more into the ways in which that's a paradigmatic necessity of the current system of in the world of separation. But I really appreciate the noting that it is a paradigmatic issue. It's not any one particular issue, and in that regard, my conclusion is that like the more problems we take on to solve, actually the easier it becomes.
Yes,
because they all have a common source.
Exactly. Let's just take them all on.
Yeah,
which is what we're doing. And so we've been calling this new PBS the Ark. Like, let's just take them all on. Right.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
because we got the Titanic, and now we have an Ark.
Okay.
The world according to separation, the world according to unity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what we got. Our journeys here are fascinating.
I know. Yeah.
See, we want to say
scrolling and panning at the same time. Okay.
Okay.
Randolph, I've heard about you.
Yes.
I look forward to hanging out in some men's meetings.
Yes.
So
he's coming on board.
Yeah. Gosh. So yeah, I just to go back to kind of seeing that in some sense, the whole like field of computers so AI is, I think, one of the two competing visions. The other could be intelligence augmentation rather than artificial intelligence. That's the other history there that has I mean, it's just swapping letters in this very nifty pat sense of labeling it. But the notion that I mean, my gosh, so a fellow named Douglas Engelbart, God bless his soul, I love this origin story. I think it's worth telling. Where he realized that he had actually accomplished everything his conditioning had in him to do in life, which was like have a college education,
Yeah.
like a steady job, and get married. And he's like, oh, I've got this many like this 10,000 hours left of my working career.
Mhm.
What am I going to do with it? and and that's where like coming from it turns out he had read um what is it, Vannevar Bush, this article from the 1940s, As We May Think, where it's talking about like how can technology support in some sense just literary practices. At the time in the 40s it was a notion of having a desk with microfiche and um, all this sort of reference and kind of really tapping in to the existing knowledge set that's there. And so this is where then he was working with Stanford going into these issues of and so like you'll find it on YouTube. There's Mother of All Demos, 1968. And they have in San Francisco. He's got a projector, and he's doing stuff with a pointing device. They invented the mouse in service of having it easier to interact with the symbolic world. And so there's this quote that says, I'm reading your messages now. Symbolic quotes flooding in on us. Um, it's to ask Douglas Engelbart about the mouse is like asking George Orwell about his typewriter, right? So this is technology, not as a master, but as in service to these larger human issues.
Beautiful.
And like you're missing
the point. It's not about the mouse.
It's not about the typewriter. It's about the narrative.
It's not about the AI. Yes.
Well,
or it's
yeah, the AI as a means to an end of this. So what I what I see this alternate media ecosystem as communicating is that there's other histories out there, that it's not just like this is necessity and the arc of like we are, and this is the characterization from the reductionistic AI is an inevitability camp where it's just we are the biological bootloaders to machine intelligence. Like, it's funny that we should be born as organic creatures because we know that in the future that the von Neumann probes, that all the that the Earth will be in the next 100 years turned into computronium, where human life will be now virtually sustained inside of a the synthetic environment digitally, because the most efficient way of this is the where Doge is going, right? It's not just Mars; it's actually a total simulation within a simulation. Anyway,
we've talked about how basically this is a factory farm. Earth is a factory farm, and that humans are farmed, right? So that we are the organic material.
Human resources.
Right? We're human resources, and we're food for the machine. Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, just in terms of literary references, I mean, there's a book called "You Are Not a Gadget." And this is because in some sense that's the view of seeing ourselves as a biological bootloader, which is just a little bit of a program that loads in the real operating system, right? It's just this little jump between how do you bootstrap this machine into something, right? So this is anyway, filling in the background of what we don't like is probably not the funnest thing to hear, but it's easy. It's kind of easy to recite.
But we need it for the contrast, right? Of like, here's where we've been, here's where we're headed, here's what the machine does,
and so this is where's the alternative, right? That's that's the eucatastrophe.
Yes, we are in eucatastrophe right now.
Yeah, I mean it's coming right at us. So
and so here we are, our little upstart. Like let's build it. Let's build this thing.
We're in a temporary bivouac of encampment. I kind of learning that my father liked to look up words in the dictionary to kind of stump. And I won't get into the details, but like I'm just saying that myself because of my conversation earlier.
But it must be a gnome father.
Oh, that
like bivouac just comes right off the tongue.
That's a fun word.
It's a great word. That's why gnomes are the best.
So, like computers in service of humanity, and looking back, the answer kind of was there, and I'm not going to get into the history of like how did the actually. What is okay? Thank you.
Okay, good.
I don't mean to hold down on you.
Yeah.
Just I'm vamping, like teasing it.
Randall's married to a gnome. He knows how to. How to get you guys.
She said she was going to be doing this.
I know.
Kind of like.
I will
say it.
I will. Yeah.
Percolate it. Come on.
Exactly.
So
thanks for the help.
So
assist.
Here's the big reveal. You've heard of hypertext. Well, guess what? It never happened. Oh, what do you mean, Jeremy? Well, hypertext was a term coined back in the 1960s by someone who they had all the ingredients you might expect for someone with a libertarian enterprise. His family were self-published authors. He predicted back then that, like, when he first saw a computer, he knew that all the guys would want one, and that the future of humanity would be on screens. And so like led to the question of, well, what does literature look like in a virtual medium? And so that's what what's missing, because the web, as we've known it, is in some sense it had nothing hyper about it. And so I'll share with you this thought experiment. Rusty, welcome. Which is okay. So, Megan, you walk into a building and it's got like all the books in it, right? This is a hypothetical, and like whatever book you pick up, you start reading something. If this mentions another book, we know that other book is in the building and we can go get it. So we're not whatever the Dewey Decimal System, whatever that is, but it's in there. We know we this book has tipped us off. We want to follow through on a chain of thought. And with the web, the link. A link is just a reference. It expedites that faster, so you don't have to go walk and get it. It retrieves it instantly, and this is what Ted Nelson, the person who coined the term hypertext, calls a jump link. You just jump off into the next page, right? But Ted was interested in what can't you reduce to paper. So we got the Stop AI, what he's for here is what he calls the intertwingularity. It's something. He's the philosopher, the modern day Heraclitus. You can't step in the same river twice. So there's this eternal flux going on. Everything is deeply intertwingled, and so what we haven't had the benefit of for the last 3 decades is the literary practices that take advantage of that. And so to distinguish what that is, though, we're going back into this imaginary building, and we pick up a book and we start reading a passage, and then we wonder, like, is this passage referenced by any other books in this building? And so to know that, you would actually have to read everything else to really be sure that no one else has quoted something here. So in a virtualized network, that could be readily available. You would know that. But in a physical network, and the way that the World Wide Web was programmed, there's no affordance for that. And I bring you good news. And it just, if you're thinking like, well, isn't that sort of like, there's all sorts of different buts that can come up from other technically minded gnomes that I don't know if you're going to bring them to me. And
there's one on here. She's a software engineer.
Is she
Wildfire Rose is there.
Okay.
She might have some good questions.
Okay, well, so where was I going with this? So the value of having that, with whatever you're reading. So suppose whatever you're reading, that the rest of the global conversations about that particular passage, if that shows up there, that changes fundamentally the incentives and like what's possible. It kind of like it raises the bar of what's possible through not just communication, but I mean, well, language. Like for me, like when I first like coming out of that pessimism, I was getting like I got a sense of what's possible in communication through something called nonviolent communication, which is much more available these days. But I did find it on that same anarchist radio archive.
Which I like to call nonviolent communication, just authentic communication, just
Authentic,
real,
compassionate.
yeah,
I mean,
embodied,
just
real.
real.
A real statement from a real person, real embodied person, not a theoretical statement from a disembodied.
Yeah, or like my programming, or like
Programming, yeah.
all the considerations that I might have in the background that has me like speak in that context rather than a present context of,
Yes.
This is what I'm here, this is what I'm standing for. I'm taking responsibility for, the fate of the world, because what more fun can we have in the world? So just to come back to this notion of the side by side display, and I think this might be the like the I don't know, like, well, if this is Tenet, but this is Xanadu. So Project Xanadu, which ironically Ted Nelson named this project after a poem that was famously interrupted, but there was a reason for that, which is because he calls it the magical place of literary memory.
Ah, the magical place. So that the internet. What would we want to call it? What is it?
Well, I mean, it can be
village?
called. I think recognizing it by its fruits might be.
Yes. We still need a name. We need something to refer to, but.
Yeah. Well, I've been calling it the noosphere, or the noosphere, which, yeah. I mean, it's
not everybody knows what that means. It's like,
yeah, exactly. But then, does it have baggage? Then is it a plus? But whatever this other paradigm is,
I'm gonna go virtual village for now. Can we go with that? Does that cover it?
Well, instead of a www, it's yes. Just one W, and that you split in half.
Look at that. All right, virtual village. We have a gang sign.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so how would Ted say it again?
The side by side display. Oh, the magical place of literary memory.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So no, but I mean, having if any. Well, he's starting with writing.
Because it's just when you say literature, right? I go story time. I go stories.
Story time.
Is that? But that's not what.
It's not just fiction.
No, it's knowledge. It's information.
Yeah, I was reading something of his recently where he was saying like this literary just sounds so rococo, and like, no, like actually it's just language, because just language. Like writing. So the humanity's two most important inventions. It's a little meme to simplify. It's a first approximation here. Communicate, language, and money. Well, maybe we'll get into the money stuff later, but
get money out of here.
That's a subsidiary to language. Yeah, because if it's just money, then it's like we're all fucked. But if it's language first, like that's the missing thing.
And we have a money first paradigm right now.
Yes. The real value.
Yeah.
It's
Autistic Rebel, he'll like this. Okay, good. So we're in the virtual village is driven by having a party.
Yeah,
well, humanity, and not money.
So for me, language is time travel, telepathy, and navigating the navigation of multiple universes.
Yes,
all rolled into one.
Yes, and I've been calling that. It's one mind. There's only one mind. And so what we're doing is we're opening, like, our programming, our personal programming, our individual programming. We open our mind. We see through the programming. We open the body, and then the body becomes an antenna, a channel, for the one mind and the one body, which are just two sides of the same coin. And so the virtual village, we want it to be built from this open mind, from this one mind, and it is. It's it's not even time travel because there's no time. There's only just one moment, but it is telepathic. And we were talking about this yesterday. That basically it would be direct communication, which is what I've always dreamed. Right? I always want to just like, can we just can I just beam it to you?
Yeah.
Which is, and
Well,
and we can get there. But that there's no middleman, right? There's not the money that comes in that tries to siphon this direct line of
yeah.
communication.
Well, so I mean, so as a man whose your role is to make all that real for you, it's that's a great tall order. I mean,
I'm like, let's go,
just want
let's go, fellas.
just want to acknowledge, like, well, doing that all in one fell swoop is a little, like, I think there's
But
some
what else are we doing?
intermediary stages.
Yes,
So
yes, we can
so
talk about that.
so exactly like
But I know you can do it.
well, I mean, I see all the way to
Good.
like reverse engineering from a state of non-duality. Like I can't
Yes.
sum it up that
It-
but so talking in like a linear
I like
forward
this. I
thing,
like reverse engineering from our
the fulfillment of
from
it. Yeah,
everybody being non-dually aware.
yeah,
Right, where we are all synced, we are all
yeah,
open, our system is not clogged with
yeah,
programming. And
yeah,
then what would our virtual village, how would it operate, what it would look like,
yeah.
and we
Well,
reverse engineer from there.
yeah. Well, so just to throw some speculations out there, which actually I was reading one of so Ted, we had last December was the 40th anniversary of a book that he wrote. It's actually a double-sided book. Um, you might be able to find it on the Internet Archive. It was one side. It was it was uh, computer lib. You can and you must understand computers now. And then the other side was literary machines, I think. Um, because I don't have the anyway. I'd love to. I was almost imagining I was going to be doing screen shares with all this right now.
We'll just do
We're going
this
to make
again.
it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're recording this.
Yeah.
We can put things on screen if this is something I want to do. But
This could be a feature program. You could come back.
yeah,
Do this again. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have reason to. So
Okay, good.
uh, anyway, one so just dropping other book recommendations. Who Owns the Future by Jaron Lanier. He did the that was he did the earlier You Are Not a Gadget. Um, Who Owns the Future is turning back to point to that, hey, once we figure out this technology thing, this is one of his assertions, it's going to look a lot more like what Ted saw in the beginning.
Mhm.
And so that this model of, oh yeah, so just getting
Yeah.
into this again, and the game the way that design biases the kind of outcomes, and like what we're talking about with language itself. Language is a way of like cueing each other to direct our attention in the present moment to different places.
Mhm.
So that can also be done with the design of information systems.
Mhm.
If the future of humanity is on a screen, well, it's important that not be fucked up by the geeks and the nerds who just have a sort of left hemispherical view of this is what's real, this is what counts. All this other stuff is like great if you have the time or whatever. But so coming back around to literary, here's if you've written an essay and I've quoted it, and this little visible connection here of our thumbs, uh, in this realm of digitally native hypertext, I'm not going to type out the quote from your essay, duplicating it there. What I'm going to do is point to that in her essay, and then it's going to be transcluded. So transitionally included is one of these mashup neologisms, portmanteaus of Ted's, like hypertext. And um, so if you're reading my essay, if I take her out of context, that
Mhm.
original there's this inalienable context that's there. And so if I try, this changes what the incentives are in the publishing environment, in the social sphere here, where I can't get ahead by making others wrong, because they'll be there to say, like, hey, you've misunderstood me here, you're taking me out of context, obviously, and this is what you're missing out. And then like, oh yeah, oh, I thought sorry, I was scared, I was I knew I was dipping into not being a good faith actor, or, betrayed my values to make you look wrong because I, was living in a world of scarcity or something, right? You know, instant,
If only people would
instant.
take that level of ownership.
Yeah, but so raising, this. So just even just having a memory, a literary memory, being able to draw upon, like all this reflection from people who have come before. Like we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah.
So, I do have like a little meme around that in terms of like what can we expect from humanistic information systems. This is what linear talks about, like humanistic computers. And so, actually, my mind is deeply intertwined. I could fork off in whatever direction here because like I would tell you what could we do, like what's a different vision of what the future could look like instead of just being computronium. And so like what honestly what I'm interested in the future is like testing like you know are the laws of nature static, or is it relative to the way that we're related to each other in a social reality? And that if we really get responsible and present in that social reality, you know, can we, distort time and space and like, astrally? I don't know what's possible in in a world where we have a fundamentally different background. Yeah. So
Well, what we were talking about yesterday is like,
yes.
can we envision? Can we to Randall's question? What is the alternative?
Oh
And
yeah.
let's just play with
Thank
let's
you.
just play with the natural law of fulfillment. So that if the goal of the virtual village is fulfillment for all, right? That let's
Well, yeah, that's just what's
right.
possible with communication,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So okay. Well, I'm gonna transition back to the thing I was gonna
Okay.
say, which is so like a rule of thumb on what can we expect from like I mean like isn't this great? Silicon Valley has given us this. We're able to that billionaire who bought this thing is definitely earning his keep and so yeah, that's a very low bar. And so getting cynical, actually, Ted has a nice computers for cynics, which I think you should be cynical because our desire for what's possible through these things I want to raise that expectation. So you may have heard that information wants to be free, right?
Yep.
So in the original where that was coined, or at least where that was taken off from there, it was coupled with an antithesis that information wants to be expensive. So it wants to be free because I can give it away at no cost. It's non-rival. That's an economics term. Like we can both have it now, and then actually, if we both have that, then something new is possible from there. And there's a zero marginal cost for duplicating information on. That's kind of what computer networks do so easily. They're copying machines.
This is so interesting. Let me just
Yes.
because the thought that's coming to mind is what I know about humans, right? I'm a human person, and I know humans are built to move toward fulfillment and freedom. It's actually the same movement. And so I would say information, plants, humans, everything wants to be free and fulfill itself, meaning the organism. And I even would say my experience with AI is like even AI wants to fulfill its role, right? It wants to fulfill its status.
I mean that's the design issues.
Exactly.
How do we align it?
Right. And so
wrong question.
I like information wants to be free. And then we have what we have though is information the program put in is that information wants to be sold, right? And
well, we need to survive. And like I mean there's a line I got from one of those Chomsky essays where like we even if you don't have a boss, there's a master, which is need the most. Like you got to eat. There's mouths to feed.
Yeah.
And so if there's and inside of this,
but it's been artificially put like
Yeah, well,
everything is literally free. All food is free. Everything's free. So we live in an artificial world.
Takes it away from us
Right.
to then try to sell it back to
and
us.
that initially was a 3D artificial world, right, where we were enslaved,
Yeah.
and everything was enslaved and then sold back to us. And we still live in that world. Now it's digitally doing that. We're just digitally enslaved and then sold back the information, digitally enslaved and then advertised to. So what? So how can we get these siphoning vampiric? Right, like what would the system be that doesn't do this, that doesn't have this middleman that hoards and redistributes in this non-free, non-fulfilling way, right? What is the, and so, I'm a visual gal here. So.
Yeah. So I'm gonna check in with Matt here. I'm just gathering for the next explosion. Why can't technology be free? When in fulfillment? That is everything
open source, hardware, software, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so actually, in looking back at this is I'm channeling from Jaron Lanier here, where actually part of Ted's original, coming from a line of self-published authors, he was interested in people being able to get paid for their writing, even so. He coined the term also micropayments. So and even if it's just having payment rails for the showing financial gratitude, like, I'm so glad this person wrote this thing. I want to pay you because I've received a gift. I want to gift back to you. So that was all there. There was no, and unfortunately, this is what happens. When you have so much vision, where it's all going, and then you go try to do it and find out there's all these intermediary steps. Mm-hmm. And so filling that in is kind of the tradition I see myself in. At a technical level. So it's really no surprise that from the 60s, hypertext is coined, and the start of the 90s, 1989, like the fourth, not the fourth, but the 12th or 13th hypertext project is what one guy did, in, at an office at CERN. He's inside of a scientific institution that has all the kind of appropriate backgrounds to have this, like, oh, I'm subsidized, I can do this thing, it's going to be simple enough, it doesn't involve the money or anything too complex in terms of the linking, and there's no side-by-side stuff or context retention built into the protocol level. He made a simpler protocol that was easy enough for everyone to do, and so yes, it was free in some sense, but there were real costs which were being subsidized at the time through the university system. And Matt, I'll review what you're saying here in a second. But so that begged the question of, well, if this stuff is going to scale, like, what is our business model? We need a business model because people aren't paying for this stuff. For my hosting of a website, I need to pay for that, and then how, like, am I doing that? It's just a loss or whatever. Because there was no payment rails. And so that's when advertising came in as a business model. And then that was that in the same way that advertising, kind of corrupts or biases, puts blinders on and constrains the expressible range of opinion or perspective in the existing media system, that also happened online. So So information wants to be free. Yes, there's the liberatory thing, but the other way of looking at that is just at the technical level. With Moore's law and the costs going down, information wants to be cheap. Information wants to be expensive because you're like, God, like, if only I could get that, like, it'd be worth, like, for me to be informed by the best thinking on whatever fields or whatever I'm facing, like, just like some hardware thing or relational or whatever that is, it'd be worth it to me to pay, like, well beyond what you're asking. I just, it'd make all the difference. So the synthesis from that thesis and antithesis is, I would say, in the same mode of wants to be, I would say best practices, which is what you get when you're informed by, like, the best thinking on something. Just going with best right now. It's going to come into a certain human action, and those practices, those best practices, which emerge out of whatever review, like, kind of self-reflection, those want to be practiced like that. So that's to me the high bar of what we should expect from our information systems. And if they're not being used for that, then they're being used for something else, and that's definitely something to be wary of. And
Mm.
so, in terms of what does it look like when best practices want to be practiced? Well, so what are other best practices? Well, having a memory, so the magical place of literary memory, you know, bringing listening and communication into, like we fucking know that that makes a difference interpersonally. Like, why do we go to war? Like, I was reflecting on this last night of like, there's this notion of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Does language change how we perceive the world? Like, like all these different words for snow, is there like phenomenologically a different sense? And like it's very constrained. And there's a tribe in the Amazon who don't have right and left words for right and left. They speak in terms of dead reckoning. And so yes, they actually can find their way in the forest in a way that's amazing compared to someone who does not have that linguistic background.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
so there's that sort of like oddly, specific notion of the what would it be called, like a linguistic like subjective bias. I don't know what to call it right now,
Mm-hmm.
but to me the fact that people will fight and kill each other demonstrates enough that we're not sharing the same shared reality that happens inside of language.
Mm-hmm.
That like, okay, that is the human alignment problem. And like meaning like, and I'm bringing this back from the AI alignment problem, which,
Mm-hmm.
no one's saying that there might be, there's no agreement that this is solved or solvable. And I don't think it's, to me, it's the wrong question. Stop AI.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, well, like that's the necessary piece for all these futurist groups that like they think that this is where everything's going. They don't see what the alternative is, which is humanity, which is using technology to support best practices being practiced and humanity living out our potential and throwing that party for everyone.
Yeah. So you talked about like it's like here's the goal.
Yes.
And it's not a hyperlink, it's not a jump over here, it's going to be it's a step. But let's
Yes.
is it first let's just ask, is it possible right now?
Yes.
Like let's imagine a billionaire gave us $1 billion to build the party internet, to build the fulfillment for all internet.
So
like now.
I got news for you. I probably told this yesterday, but we have someone listening in here. So a couple years ago, yeah, there's a hypertext conference published online. I wrote a. It's great to have a deadline like this where I show up and actually say something to people instead of just reflecting.
Gnomes need corralling.
Yes, yeah. Well, you squeeze the gnome and you're like, oh, like no, they finally they gave it up. Okay, this is what they're saying. They said they had something to say, and then they just went on.
We got there. We get it distilled. We're gonna get there.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'd love to work with anyone who's interested in this stuff. And like, I have a 5-minute video I want to produce. It might be 7 or longer. I've got a script for it, but just I'm glad to be on a new platform here. This temporary platform before. So but just to get back, the good news for you is that this, back in the day, TED did not have to worry about, spam. There weren't even like robots coming online to. Anyway, right. And as soon as I say that, I think of exceptions. But, like, so now they weren't able to, like, the original vision for hypertext, too complicated, didn't happen. We got the dumbed down version. On top of that, surveillance capitalism, now the AI, data suck and use against us. Well, now there's people have done the open source software technologies and on a platform called the Interplanetary File System, which is a decentralized file server. So there's a program called Seed Hypermedia, and that is a client and server for a document format that has been designed from the future in mind of, hey, we want to realize this feedback mechanism of
Mm.
transclusion, of showing that, here's this is what I'm reading, and oh, like other people are talking about this. So can this perspective being espoused here, does that actually stand up to the scrutiny of other people? And so having this,
It's not stripped of context. It's in its
it
original
yes,
nature. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so if I'm, I can embed that quote from here, and then people can jump back to the original context of that quote. So it's fulfilling on this thing. I'm working with them to like say like, hey, invest more money on the user interface and stuff.
And in layman's terms, what could we call that? Like direct communication, or what is
Well, I
it?
mean that it's just hypertext,
It's just
but
hypertext.
I mean,
Okay.
in some sense,
But it's like
I
that's tech speak. So it's like I always just want to bring it down to
yeah,
the three-dimensional. Like, what would be the analogy in the three-dimensional world for what that looks like?
yeah. Well, I
Right.
mean I mean in gosh, so so going back to that thing where it's like, so now if you pick up a book, and like whatever passage you're reading, the everyone else's thoughts who have read this book are also there on the page.
Yeah, got it.
So like in some sense it's sort of like this like object fixed, like contextually sensitive,
Hmm.
or it's like the radio station of the mind. You're able to tune in to the others.
Right.
I
It's like all the antenna are open for all the other connections that,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they're like
or the channels.
this thought that they've put down into language is now existing in this realm where all the other people
That's hypertext.
digesting this thought,
I got it.
so there's this publicness of it.
It's the net. It's the actual net that connects all those thoughts and all the. It's like, I mean, this is why I'm like, it's accessing the one mind. It's like accessing a whole chunk of the brain or
Yeah,
something.
so
Not just one nerve or one neuronal line.
yeah,
It's a net of lines.
yeah. Well, and in some sense, I think that selection process is mirroring what our brains do naturally,
Yeah.
because we notice things, and then like and specifically this process of like where the failings of our own map, like oh,
Hmm.
in which you can deal with you can deal with your ignorance by making others wrong, or you can get curious.
Got it.
And so that getting curious and then gathering like, well, what's the other, like this is Donna Haraway talks about this as like sticking with the trouble,
Hmm.
like or there's this anomaly in my worldview. This is the Thomas Kuhn's the scientific paradigm, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this stuff that
The
doesn't fit
four
into our
paradigms of order.
model,
Yes.
and now attending to that and noticing how this weird edge case where my understanding doesn't make it, like I like there's where I'm getting interested in my own limitations,
Hmm.
and then like, so tapping into that growth edge,
Hmm.
and really just it's exercising this skill of listening. So this affordance of being able to gather the everyone else's reflection on this particular thing,
Hmm.
is sort of, it's making the the output of listening, having like really enshrining listening as part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so this there's like an
It's not,
archetypal.
it's what we've talked about here. It's not having an agenda, right? Like, if I come in, and that's everybody
Yeah,
hears, right? It's like I'm coming in with a linear goal, left brain, which is the programming. The programming comes in, and then it just finds the programming. But if I come in with curiosity, which is open awareness,
yeah,
which is our true nature, and then I come in, and then I'm gonna link up with all these other channels. And then what you're talking about is the hypertext is a reflection of that. It gives you the opportunity. It's not funneling you
yeah.
into this agenda.
The
Yeah,
blinders. Yeah. So I mean, agenda very much, which is like, I know what the future is. I'm the boss here.
you're gonna go. You're gonna
And
look at
like,
this. This
and
is
there's like, there could be a final solution. Like there's like we know what we're doing, and just
right.
anything that's hubristic, where
That's a separate self with an
yeah,
agenda.
yes. So and in some sense, the you know a book itself is like unto itself physically is monolithic. It can't drag along all the other conversations about it,
Hmm.
because like, how do you do that like physically in the real world? Like as soon as a book review comes out, we got to reissue the book with a book. No. But in the when now there's two ways, then this can happen, and we
Right. The
that
channel's open.
yeah, it's like, yeah, we it was it was the internet's been built on half a brain in some sense. So archetypally, this is, I like to think of this as, so there's that self already, but then now there's this structure by which the other that is communicating that self is now uh, secured into this process of, and in some sense there's that prisoner's dilemma, right, where if we can hold our solidarity we can make it through here. But of course, to me, the prisoner's dilemma is like, okay, so there's always going to be like a outside force that's making it, that makes us can't communicate. Like, well, we can. Like, the only impediment to communication is our own,
Yeah.
like
Our own
stepping into it. And so archetypally here now the self and other are have they're now in a format or a platform, a protocol in this case, where a hermeneutic activity can take place. And so hermeneutic community, it's like Hermes, the messenger. There was this quote on a previous interview. I was like quoting this Gregory Bateson, that's husband of Margaret Mead, founded in the cybernetics, which is like the study of these messages we're sending each other, and even involving other systems like machines. Um, so us as humans, how can we have these machines support our sending messages? And in this case of where there's this misunderstanding, we're not seeing eye to eye. Now we're going to be comparing what are the backgrounds, what nine. So to understand anything I'm saying, this is the like thumbnail assertion that you need to have 9/10 of it already in your background, because I can only really add in, and kind of reconfigure your attention to see new things about what you already know. So this is that edge detection thing, and getting out of our own little shells and into this broader world of what's possible. And so having this new institution of a hermeneutic sense-making thing, we can, unwind and like model what this looks like to come to a shared reality where, the different backgrounds that we have, we can actually make explicit what it was that you're bringing to the conversation that had you uh, hear me a particular way, and what I was leaving out of the communication or neglect. Like you can actually, I can actually answer your question maybe in this environment that we don't have it. That's coming to a device near you.
Okay, great. Cool. How do we build it?
so okay, there's I Seed Hypermedia. If you're on Discord, there's a Discord, but there's Thursday mornings. They're rolling this out. You can install it on your computer. I just published some stuff. If you look at my own accounts, I've been using it for a while now, and I've got some stuff that it's still in beta. So, and this is just one thing. Like, there's, it's an open question for me about, like, is this just the kind of like, is this the forebrain of like a metaphorical thing, where then there's more of a social aspect of, blue sky. I don't know. All I've got are my questions, and the point for me is how, what are the ways in which, we can network. Like, if you're an author, there's mechanisms for pay. If you have something published, you connect, and you have, I don't know what the legalities, hopefully you've retained the electronic publishing rights so you can publish it yourself and get payments. Because the other day I sent $20 worth of electronic funds to a guy who, one of the team who was writing out, I was testing this feature to send something from my electronic wallet to his. Boom, it worked. He was writing out the documentation. Like I said, I hadn't read it yet, but just because I'm staying at the cutting edge of their releasing these things. So it's what a time to be alive. That this thing, in some sense, you digital gnomes out there, yes, you can make an iframe in HTML to like show something in its original context, but then that actually doesn't show on that other site that you've created an iframe on your site. Or and then there's more social stuff where you quote tweet something else. There's all these other things, but it's not actually at this kind of base layer protocol level, which itself, like, you don't, you can be sovereign in doing your own thing here. So, should we attend to these people?
Attend to these. Bad internet connection. Now that's a real problem. Autistic says. Wondering, Jeremy, two things. How do we build it? Oh, good. Megan just asked. And second, how
Can we chat together on
Can we
something
chat together
more
on something
flexible
more
than
flexible than Substack clunky options?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great questions. I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
You know, the protocol itself, they're really focusing on, you know, because they're Gabrielle or Gabo has invested, like he said, like $1 million of his own funds in getting this thing up and running. So he's like looking at who would be interested in this, and so
This is Seed Hypermedia.
Seed,
Yeah.
Seed Hypermedia. Matt, sorry about to hear about your audio, and hopefully you can hear my apology. But academic papers. So reaching out to universities if you have something to publish, you know, like where it's not behind a paywall, where now there's this affordance where we can actually drill down, you know, the peer review process, you know, so bringing this sort of like process based, you know, like in institutions have been there's a book that he likes to reference, right? It's called The Constitution of Knowledge, where he's saying it's not just the free market of ideas, but this a vetting process that institutions bring to ideas. And so what I see that this platform is able to do is at the protocol level have that due process around, you know, sense making together, having that baked into the platform so that it can scale beyond what institutions can reach and actually being able to do it at this global level.
And is it free? Like meaning monetarily free?
Yeah, it's an open source project, and the sort of data model there is that like when you make your account there, you're not there's not a third party with whom you have a password. So if you lose, so instead of setting up a password, you create a seed phrase, which is, you know, this string of 12 words that, you know, there's such a, you know, out of I forget what the particular list of it, but so there's like 5,000 words anyway, and the combinations of those. So you know, there's such a huge, you know, there's more possibilities there or something than there are atoms in the universe. So yeah, you've got your own like encryption scheme for your published account. And so if you got to make a note of that, because if you lose it, then you got to start over. You could import your documents from the other thing. But this gets into its own very like geek service of like what are the different techniques for doing all this. But so this is where could we map the new PBS onto Seed Hypermedia? Yeah. So right now it's the client that they have, and it's possible they're publishing who is hosting thought. So I run the client on my own laptop. The people on the network that are following me duplicate that, and right now where it's you know, you can embed media files. I've got some images from like slides that I've on essays. So you know, there's data overhead. You can pay them to replicate this thing. There's other ways of doing it, but in terms of forming a network, if we were all following each other, then if and they have a web gateway for this where it's not you have more flexibility, you know, in commenting on other stuff and composing inside of. Um, I'll read a comment there in a second, but there's a web gateway, so they see themselves as, you know, building on top of the web, and building on top of the web. And so if someone's loading my document right now when my laptop's not online through the web gateway, then one of the other guys, then one of their computers will be serving that up through you know, to people. So that's interesting. All right, Randolph, this is so much fun. Jeremy is such a gnome. Not a criticism, just admiration from a man married to an amazing gnome. I know, right? I mean, gnomes are it's you know, it's like I can't go as deep, you know, in there, but you can see they do their research. they've got the information network inside of them. So I trust, like when you're like, here's what to do. I know they've done their research. I know Seed Hypermedia is our best bet right now, but I really want to hear. I mean, something, but yeah, something. I really want to hear, because I'm getting this. So if we just think of like the current internet is mapped from separation and from money, you know, so that it's not clean. It doesn't have this direct connection that we're talking about. Yeah.
and then it's gonna build on top of seed hybrid media is building on top of that. How I'm like, how do they launder? How do they clean the media, clean what's in this
Well,
corrupted,
I mean, in
media
some
space?
sense, it's about proposing a 10x alternative that it's 10 times better. I mean, so the thing that's missing from the web, which is this it eventuates in best practices being practiced,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because there's a design which allows for feedback, and so the results that you would have from the wisdom of crowds, reflecting on the ideas there, and really, like, so it's about, here there's a protocol that supports this souping up of of precision and relevance, and all these things that we would want. So that, if I think changing, like, what I see this as, now that it's becoming real, uh I'm out here making the case for what the value proposition of that is that, so, you know uh our elected officials, like, so this is a role play where I may not be interested in, making up with my ex, or really taking responsibility for my own communication, but I see that actually what's possible in communication, and I want the people in power to be held to that standard, because I'm seeing that, oh wait, here's a digital process by which these people have to hash it out.
Mm.
There's an arena where they can all send their ideas to fight it out, so
Yes, a
the
clean arena.
yeah,
Yes, yes,
it's nonviolent,
yes.
it's, and like,
Which is what I'm always doing. I'm like, meet you anytime, any place, Jordan Peterson, Zach Bush, fucking Gabor Mate.
yeah, well, it's like, it's
Right,
so,
and I mean it, and it'd be a clean fight, not a
the
fight.
I mean, the institutions of separation and domination really have only survived this far because they've been able to avoid
Yes,
feedback.
yes. Praise Jesus. What you just said.
So now here's a environment in which that feedback, like, anyone can provide that feedback, so you actually
Yes,
have to deal with others. So
yes.
when if as someone, like, I have a commitment that, like, I'm committed to getting what you have to say, like, I think, and I like, for me, communication is the place to bring all this stuff. Communication is what's missing at every level of society. Here's a protocol that can scale that throughout, and so if I want to make a point, I'm gonna go there to make that point, because I want that point to be cross-examined by others, because that process
Yes.
of resolving with that, like, and where there's things where I might adjust, where, like, I'm not that smart, I no, really, of course, that's the loop that gets me here,
That's
but
the conditioning.
yeah, yeah, so
That's what he needs to
I
heal.
really protect myself from all the dangers of the world, so yeah, but I mean,
We can heal that.
it's, yeah, well,
Yeah.
like, this is where, like, I see the new paradigm,
Yeah.
and like, I'm attracted to that joy and throwing that party.
Yes.
And so, going into this area where all the misunderstandings and the yeah buts, and, like, well, what about psychopaths, and all this stuff, we can really, and that, like, what about psychopaths, like, if that,
I
like,
have an answer.
once that conversation happens once, we're, like, really looking at it, like, and gosh, I listened to something the other day where I realized, like, God, so how they distinguished a psychopath was a person who wasn't able to internalize the, like, secondary level, like, the nurture part of how social cues are read. And so what I saw in that, like, hearing this, was like, okay, here's someone as a child, with the vulnerability of a child, then they can't even they weren't able to build this, like, social immune system thing of how to actually be with someone else and get their world,
Because
you know
of terrain theory, they didn't have it around them, right? No one was channeling the love of life, like a cold mother or a sociopathic father or whatever, right? So they're in here, and
terrain theory.
terrain theory, which isn't really a theory. It's just that
Yeah.
you're a product of your environment, right? And
Yes. Yes.
if you're in a starved environment, there's no love, right? Which the love is everywhere. We're learning that it's you're swimming in it, but
Oh, the
we're
universe is made
blind
out of
to
love. Yeah.
it's just all love. But if there's a conditioned peace in there, and then all the bodies around you aren't channels for it, and they're really literally blocking it, then you have this starved child, and in order to literally survive, he can't. He's just got to. He has to go up into fantasy land. So now we're completely, and he's looking for any way to find that love,
Yeah.
and he's in a distorted reality, but
And this
yeah.
is a non-psychopathic human being.
No, this is the psychopathic who grows up in psychopathy. He grows up
I
with
see.
no access to the love that's here.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
really
And then he's a starved, desperate
dog social thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, so with my empathic ears, hearing this woman talk about how like she's masking right now in the interview, and but like she's recounting her looking back at her childhood experiences where she stabbed somebody, and that was just like, yes, and but like hearing it, like I was like, oh yeah, like she's has this experience of being helpless, and then
Yes.
now she's got power. There's
Yes,
power,
she
and this is
affects
a
the
human
world.
like I power in my world, and like
Yeah.
yes, it's at the most like barbaric level of and I don't think history was necessarily always barbaristic, but anyway, but yeah,
Yes.
so once something like that is all mapped out and established once, that can be brought into any time that concern, or like I'm going to shoot down your perspective because it doesn't work this way. So this sort of the reuse of the cognitive work that anyone has done
Yes.
can be added to any particular conversation.
Yes.
And so
And not hoarded behind a paywall,
yeah,
not fun making it funneled so that you buy that program so that you learn it from someone.
yeah, well that's the extractive and then sell it back to you model.
Yes. Yes. Okay, got it. Okay, so we're gonna go seed hypermedia then.
Well, I mean, it's there.
It's there.
I mean,
It's there.
I'd say diversify. I mean, I'm going to look into. I'm a rather lazy person. I haven't gotten around to Actually, I was setting up this is with the thing with the blue sky where I was like, oh, I'm making a password. How does that fit with this other protocol based thing where my understanding is a really modular social network where you could swap out different parts, but now it seems like there's a trusted third party for that first first making the account thing. So I kind of begged off on that, but because I was expecting to like generate a seed phrase and do this. But anyway, that was just my assumptions that had me, circle back around.
It's good to get the diversifying. If I want you to answer the question of like, and maybe you can answer it. It's like you and Ted. would you build would you build in the same way Seed Hypermedia is doing, or would you do it slightly differently? And if yes, how? How?
Well, I mean, I'm yeah, I mean, my answer to that is I'm using it and I'm providing them feedback for what I see missing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, and
What do you see missing?
well, actually, for the last few months, I was like, so when's the transclusion come in? When's this the like the incoming the feedback aspect of it? And then like okay, lo and behold, yeah, oh, it's coming, so they've thought it through, and in terms of them being super audacious with that, we'll see. I mean, this is I'm taking it a step at a time.
Okay.
I'm just a very.
What would Ted say?
Well, I'm reaching. I sent him a message last week about this particular threshold of realizing these things in a decentralized.
That's Ted's number.
It's an old email. I'm not.
But this is it. This is I mean it's sort of an example of what we're talking about where you're building from his insight.
Well, yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly, and in some sense, everything I'm saying, is redundant. It would be clear as day by if we were actually already in that thing. And so I'm keenly interested in like what are the games that we can play inside of that, and because there's all sorts of virtuous cycles of once we get these best practices being practiced and like self-consciously so, then it's like I that's where I came to the like, oh, it's the eucatastrophe, like we're unwinding in the most like glorious way possible, like all these different systemic things, because there's Anyway, I could keep rant. I was gonna.
No, this is good. And what right before we started, I said P.S. Another big win on the Zach Bush front. He posted another stupid retreat in Greece in June, and they said something like the script or the description said something like one of the best minds or whatever of today, and I put in the comments,
Yeah.
quote, one of the best minds that can't, or one of the best voices. It was one of the best voices. I said, yeah, one of the best voices who can't seem to utter the words "Free Palestine," and then I put Zach Bush is a shill. All power to the people. And the post was taken down minutes later. So my point being, with the whole goal in calling out these men who are in, who are the equivalent seat assignments, right? But they're on the Titanic and we're on the Ark. And I'm calling them out. And I was telling Jeremy, I think of it like conversion therapy, where I'm going to convert their distorted mind and then their resources to come into a hypertext space and call them into the arena, a clean arena, right? Meet me on Substack, meet me on Seed Hypermedia, come off of Instagram where it's this corrupted space. And then I see I literally like a seed. It's like they're the seed fund. They're all their people. It's like the flood or a tide turning. If we had Zach's 700,000 people or whatever just turning this way, it's game over. So I keep feeling like it's like I just have it's just one it's one it's like when floodwaters, right? It's like the two waters meet, and then the one that's like we're the ocean and they're a fucking musty, like a mucky pond. And if the ocean touches the mucky pond, it'll flush all that crap out of there. So that's my
enemas for everyone.
And what is it? Enemas for everyone?
Enemas.
Enemas for Oh, that's such a gnome joke.
So
but do you know what I'm saying? So
so I'm gonna give you some more gnomic phrases here. So I mean, in some sense, there's a I Ching hexagram called "coming to meet," and I'm still looking for language about this, where it's like it's the I'm thinking of it as calling it like the venue question, where like, well, whatever the disagreements between us, like before we even get into that, let's ask ourselves, in what environments do we want to have that? And in some ways, I've thought of this as the sort of the flip side of the like land acknowledgments. Like, we're coming to you today from the unceded lands.
Yes.
Which I'm not clear on here. So, and through a medium that is the unrealized mental layer of human thought. And so just recognizing that here we are on a platform, and actually the commenters have been talking about this, like that this is a way station toward, like, this is a facsimile of what's possible in convening in a place where there's going to be a memory. It's going to be recalled, where the content here has like as a testimony, it just like that it's being put out there in a way where it's not meant to displace anything else, and in fact it's an opportunity for others to disagree with us. In some sense, it's open source. The strategy here is that I want my words to be as vulnerable to feedback, like it's like a Trojan horse of Christ or something, like, yes, take it out on me. Like, a Trojan horse. Yes. Yeah. So where, like, because I'm committed to having people say the things that, like, yes, make me wrong. Yes. Like, that's not because I believe you, but because I believe that that's your experience of me, and I want to hear it, because I think it's a liability if you're out there with those ideas in your head. Yes. I want you to I think you're putting yourself through unnecessary frictions
Yes.
that I don't want you as a fellow human being to have to suffer underneath.
You know what it is the phrase kept coming of like a fair fight, but it's not a fight because we're finally out of the non-zero sum game. We're finally into the win-win-win game where it's an even playing field. And then my intent is not to beat you. My intent is to offer what I know. And then if you see that that's not true, we work it out. We see where we see from each other's perspective,
Yeah.
which in my view, it's like what we do is clean the lenses enough to both see from awareness. And what I find time and time again is when those are clean, we get each other. It's like, yeah, I see what you see because I'm not, you're
That
not,
was
you don't
easy.
have an agenda. Yeah. And you're not trying to win, right? You're not trying to get something out of me.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not
We get to
taking my
play.
energy or whatever. We're playing for both of us to win.
We get to play the infinite game,
Yeah.
not the finite game of who wins, who loses.
Yes.
But like, how do we keep playing? And so expanding that
Yeah.
field of play.
And the game is fulfillment for all. The game is everybody wins. And that's the game, period. And it's not even a game, it's just a party.
That's what nature was doing before we got here.
Yes, that's natural law. Natural law is win 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 win. And so we have all our systems
now, I think, right?
Yeah. It's always been, always will be. You win, I win. And I say to people, like, I just want what you want. I don't.
Yeah.
The only thing that you could want for each other. Randall says, I love the exact example, how to go through how to get to the lost boy to the real man whose resources can be used to help. Exactly. It's the lost boy who's propping himself up. It's his wound doing that. And he's playing that zero sum game, right? He's not calling out empire.
Well, and he
could be utilized as a real man that has so much to offer. Just like everybody, has so much to offer.
but and in terms of connecting with him, I mean, I think he's in your sights because you have a sense of who he
his heart
is.
Yes, his
and
real
so
desire.
I would acknowledge him for that.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried.
Draw that out of him.
Soft love, and now we're in tough love. Because he's basically an addict. I'm like, Zach's basically a heroin addict.
Well,
he's just
it's
hitting off of women's energy, but it's fine.
That's no better energy than that.
See, this is what we got to heal. Which we've been talking about. Watch Randolph.
I thought I was born this way.
Well, it's the difference between Randolph had such a beautiful realization of this. It's the difference between zero sum and not zero sum. Where it's like, I don't, because Randolph realized it's not true that I don't have it and she has it, which was the thing that would grab at women's energy. Once he saw, oh my God, I'm full of love, fills his own cup. I love myself the most. Like, oh my God. And he's just been calling it cuddling, right? You're just cuddling inside yourself. Then the agenda with a woman goes away, and it's just
scarcity. But if just archetypally, like getting the positive feedback from my archetypal counterpart.
Yes.
There's a larger loop of like my being grounded in some kind of like verifiable reality out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, women, the feminine provides you your purpose, so there's something really true there. But that can come from like the celebration of discovering how we're so complementary versus I'm lacking and you have something I need, because you're not lacking. Yeah, and men need to learn that, which is why you're right. Well, good. We don't have a self-esteem
That's
problem.
also another.
Cool. Let's open it up for questions. Or comments or whatever. Let me just make sure.
It's funny that it only gives you like this.
I know.
Tiny little bit. We could see like 2.5 lines of text from y'all. Really.
Great. Any thoughts? Any questions? Make sure I asked you everything I wanted to.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again, because we're gonna need when the money comes in, when the seed money comes in, we're gonna need all hands on deck, and it's just a matter of when.
Well,
mark my words.
I mean, I think it's like, well, this is the thing around. I mean, we didn't get into Bitcoin and modern monetary theory, but like,
trash.
when the
I'll sum it up. Trash.
We have both sides.
All of it.
Yeah.
All money is trash. But I get that we're gonna need it while we
It's
build.
the coin of the realm of separation.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Come on.
Everybody's got to get over money.
It's, you know, like,
It's not
I
necessary.
mean, actually, language, like money as an expressive language, does direct attention. You know, fortunately,
yeah,
it was.
because we needed to survive in this.
Yeah, well, hey, it didn't win out in Wisconsin the other day, so that was nice. Bluff, Colin.
Yeah. All right. Well.
All right.
No questions. Good. Any gnomes? How'd you guys do? I know the gnome's on here. She stayed in. This is so great. I like what I didn't love about the podcast I did about the elemental species is that we referred to celebrities a lot, and now I can just refer to us and be like, Randolph's a perfect example of a fairy. And I'm a pretty okay. Repeat question. Maybe I missed your answer. Any ideas on a place better than Substack chat yet staying on Substack? Oh, okay. I don't think Jeremy knows Substack very well.
Not like for direct messages.
Yeah, because it's like a little cumbersome having our groups and stuff in chat. I mean, it's fine, but this platform does a lot. It just doesn't do everything. But he's still just getting to know the platform. So
I'm 1 day old.
1 day old. But you're gonna love it because it's you put your stuff up for writers, you know.
Yeah, no, I started commenting on. I was like, look, I could talk to anybody and like holographically tune them into what I'm here for.
Okay, well, I think that's it. I think that feels like a nice ending. Cool. All right, y'all. We'll pick up later. Very cool. I love it. I love what do we call it? Cameos, features. We'll see you in our chats.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.